Welcome to a football show Thursday edition and a brand new generation of the product and the program here as we congratulate Zach Lyons, who is no longer on the show ever again.
That's right.
But now he's a part of
finally found a way to get rid of him.
Now he's a sellout. He's a sellout on mainstream media, and he's going to have to answer a lot of questions for that now.
One of those big bad Tennessee Titans beat writers he's spent months talking about, and they stink at asking questions. They waste their time going to the facility. He embodied the you either die a hero or you live long enough to become a villain.
So I did have a chance to chat with him, and you're going to hear from him because, of course, we've had 3 years here working together, and we will talk Titans today as well. Easton and I are going to talk Titans. We're going to talk about the practices we saw this week and the concerns maybe you should have. I think there is still it unfortunately always tracks back to one particular topic, and we'll get to that. I think there was some good that we saw that you and I saw on Wednesday, and I saw some bad on Thursday. So we'll get to that as well. Again, you will hear from Zach. I got a couple of minutes with him to sort of talk to you guys and say thank you and goodbye. So you'll hear from Zach in just a second. So stay tuned for that, and then we'll talk Titans afterward. But as far as the program, by the way, Sinkers Beverages are great and awesome, wonderful, amazing sponsor here in Nashville that has been serving the East Nashville community for 30 plus years. This is a company that's been nominated and won the award for best liquor store in the city. Bluegrass Beverages, of course, up in Hendersonville, has been serving the community for over 50 years. This is a great locally owned business. And through all of our changes that are coming, that we are going to tell you about, that we are excited about, Sinkers is along the ride with us for all of them. And we love them for that. So that means you need to go show them some love because they keep this show free for all of you watching and listening and paying attention. So we appreciate Sinkers Beverages. Sign up for the in crowd and, of course, follow them on the socials. So we will have, here's what's going to happen. If you would like to know what's going on with a football show, you can absolutely tune in on Monday when we tell you what's going to happen.
Hey,
on Monday, we will have the new lineup, let's call it, ready to go for all of you. We'll make the announcements. There's going to be more than one name associated with this. There might be 3 different names associated with all the stuff across the 440 Sports platform. We're going to have some new products for you. We've been waiting for this for a while. It's going to be very, very exciting. And I just want to say, and I'll say this when I talk with Zach and we show you that video. But first and foremost, Easton, I don't know about you, but everything's an opportunity in life. And this is an opportunity. Every show I've ever done with anybody is you kind of have to teach yourself in this business that it's never going to last forever. And you have to enjoy the shows you get to do when you're doing them because they change. I mean, Zach's been through this with different iterations of his own show, and it just is a part of the game, and it happens all the time. And it just, the products evolve and move, and we appreciate all of you for supporting us. And I'm very excited about what we've got planned for you guys next week. It's going to be very interesting. I think you guys are going to really like it.
I believe they call that a tease.
I think you guys are going to really like it. I'm really excited about it. And it's all scheduled to start right when the football season starts, college football season starts, and then a couple of weeks from the NFL season. But it's been fun the last 3 years working with Zach, and really excited for him, proud of him. And so I want to say thanks to him. Didn't want to post it on Twitter. I'm really not a like pour your heart out in like a notes. You know how you write your heart out in the notes.
The next time I have any kind of change in my life, I'm going to put an essay out there just for you.
I can't do it. It's like I was on Twitter like very transparently, like all of my life was on Twitter, but nothing important. Like none of the stuff,
things.
None of the stuff that like we were dealing with as a family or trauma that was going on in my wife's life. Like I'm not that guy. So I wanted to wait till the show to speak about this and to say thank you to Zach and to say congrats to Zach and to say, all the fun we've had, like traveling to a distillery to pick out our own barrel select with a couple of listeners. Shout out to Joe and Tim, raising money.
They're going to scratch his name off the barrel now. Are they going to have to file it away?
Just burn it off.
Right. You burn it off. Yeah. It's just the Braden barrel now.
Yeah. Yeah. And so look, we knew this was a possibility for a little while, and we've got plans, and it's going to be very exciting. But it doesn't mean that I don't look back on the last 3 years and be like, man, that was a lot of fun. We did a lot of good things, had a lot of fun with you guys, the listeners. And I appreciate you, Easton, for the times you step in and fill in, and you're helping out right now. So we will talk Titans here in a minute. But congrats to Zach Lyons, everybody. Seriously.
This is us winning, Braden. This is us winning. We talk about, I think
I raised him up.
That's right. That is right. You got to let the little bird fly away eventually. And we in all seriousness, and I believe this, and I hope this doesn't come across as too self-serving, but we talk all the time about here on the 440 Podcast Network, valuing no empty calories, high carb diet here, and we enjoy long form discussions. That's a big vehicle for us to be able to deliver people nuance and insight that they wouldn't be getting elsewhere. And for somebody like Zach, who is kind of a part of that counterculture Nashville media, I think an intelligent counterculture Nashville media, to invade the existing structures.
Corporate sellout.
No. We have a bug inside the building. So he's doing the bidding of the intelligentsia at the highest level. I think that's a good thing for national media. I think the quality of programming at the station he now works at has increased overnight, and that's a good thing for folks.
I don't think that he's the spy. I'm not sure he's capable of being the spy. I think that's Stoney's job.
Oh, is that right? Stoney Keeley,
Stoney
a
is the spy.
1045 The Zone Cumulus podcast host, is one of the funniest things I've ever heard. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's something. All right, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's awesome.
No, okay. So anyway, seriously, congrats to Zach. So without any more, we'll talk Titans for the rest of the show. But for the time being, I had a quick couple of minutes with Zach because he wanted to talk to you guys, and I wanted to talk to you guys, and I wanted to talk to him. And so I wanted to do that outside of the Notes app and Twitter.com. So I wanted to do that for real life with people. Like you said, Easton, this is what we do. It's more thoughtful than that. So I had a chance to talk with Zach about all this. And you don't get a chance to say goodbye in this business. You just don't. In radio especially. I've learned that lesson the hard way multiple times. And so it was really important to me to be able to talk with him for a few minutes, and for him and for you, the audience, to sort of hear this from him. So, Easton, if you wouldn't mind, here was my last football show conversation with Zach Lyons. Zach, good to see you, man. How are you?
Doing good. Big, the big announcement happened on, this week, and I'm going to be on the radio. So this is the first time I'm on this show as a guest.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to give you a chance to say goodbye to the audience and just to say thank you to you. But first of all, congratulations, man. You come a long way from Mr. Lebowski's basement to
my basement.
Your basement, sorry, to 1045 The Zone. You've worked very, very hard, and I just wanted to say congrats to you face to face and publicly and on the show in front of the audience, because I think you deserve it. And so congratulations, my guy. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. First off, thank you to you for taking a chance on me to come on here and argue with you about football. A 90% win rate is really good, and it's time when you are on top, you need to walk away from the game sometimes. So no, I'm very thankful for the wisdom you've imparted on the show, behind the show. So very thankful for that. It's going to be fun. 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday with Blaine is going to be a blast. We have some good rapport, some good back and forth, and we'll just only get better. And then doing the post games, the Titans talk back, I think that's right up my alley, because I get to interact with fans who may be as emotional or more emotional than me. And it'll be fun, doing that with Kevin Dyson, and then depending on if it's a home or away game, Brent Doherty or Lucas Panzica. So I don't even have to host that show. I just get to go and be me. So that's a lot of pressure off my back. So I'm excited.
You'll be far more sober than them, and far more sober than you are at the end of Titans games normally, right? Like,
yeah,
so,
it'll be a different. It'll be an adjustment. I was talking to Lucas, and I was asking him, like, do you go to the game? Then do you come to the studio? What do you do? He's like, no, I just stay at the studio, watch the game here. It's usually it's really quiet, and I can prepare everything and spread out. I go, well, it's not going to be quiet anymore because I'm coming into the studio.
You're coming in hot. So this is, I've already had multiple listeners text me about this from a football show. And I don't know how you are going to square the circle of now being a sellout. Like, you are a mainstream media sellout. You've been picking on us for the better part of, I don't know, probably your whole life. And now you're a mainstream media bro. This is not from me. That's a quote from a listener who's a big fan. And I'm just curious how you square that circle, big guy.
Well, you can sometimes only affect change from within. So when I still say you guys, it will likely mean you guys because I am not going to be associated with your all still dumb questions that you will eventually ask.
I don't ask many questions at all.
Yeah,
it's not me you're talking to.
but you are way more mainstream than I am. You are
not anymore. Like you're
on ESPN radio. You're mainstream.
That's true.
You go to the practices.
I first of all, and if you have anything you'd like to say to the good, first of all, like again, super proud of you, super happy for you. You've worked really hard to get where you are, and I think it's awesome. I think the radio station made a smart decision here, and I think all the things. Not to go like super cheesy here because I don't mean to, but there's a very in this business you have to learn quickly that doing shows is a thing that like a coaching staff. It's going to end. It begins to end no matter what happens. Same thing with coaching tenures. And I really had a lot of fun the 3 years. I guess it's 3 years, right? We've almost 3 years. We've worked together. That first night teaching me how to live stream from Jasper's. Shout out to former sponsor Jasper's for the Caleb Farley draft pick, which we both loved, of course. Yeah. So the analytics, all the stuff that you guys have done for the market and for me and for our show and for our audience, I just want to say thanks and congrats and looking forward to listening to you guys. But it's been a lot of fun, and you never get to really do the whole like, hey, thanks, man, I appreciate you, and take it easy. You don't get to do that in this business, so I'm glad we got to sit down and I got to say that to you publicly on the show. So that means a lot to me. And so I appreciate you giving us a few minutes here. So,
well, I appreciate the listeners. I do want to say, goodbye and thank you for the memories. I guess, little fall. Is that Fall Out Boy? I think that's a Fall Out Boy song. Thanks for the memories.
I'm not an emo dad.
Yeah, I don't know. That was a long time ago. I'm sure that song that song was probably still within your listening age at some point. So I just want to say thank you to the listeners, but I also want to say thank you to Adam Sinkers and the guys over there at Sinkers Beverages, the Bluegrass Beverages that have been our sponsors for a real long time. My liver is probably happy I'm moving on, but at the end of the day, they put on some great events, and they will continue to put on some great events, and they are the best. And I will continue to shop at Bluegrass Beverages in Hendersonville, Tennessee. And I just want to say thank you to them because they were fantastic, provided some of the best memories of this entire tenure on this show. Was like going to the whiskey barrel pick, doing the draft parties and stuff. So I just want to appreciate, shout out to them.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you. The draft party, watch party, for all of you who showed up and paid money for that to go. All that money went to charity. Sinkers was a big part of that. Zach was a big part of that. And shout out to Stoney too, by the way. Stoney, by the way, who will still be on F Words with you on your new platform. So congrats to you guys. Last question, I'll let you go. I need it in stone on this show. Tennessee Titans record in 2024 will be what?
Man, I'm gonna say 9-8.
Okay. Cautiously optimistic. That sounds about right for you. All right. Well, congratulations, my guy. Seriously, you earned it. And thanks for popping on for a few minutes and saying goodbye to everybody. You're not like dying. You're not going anywhere. Yeah. People can listen to you. So, yes. But thank you for all the work and for the partnership over the last few years. And congratulations, my guy. Seriously,
no problem.
You earned it.
Thank you.
There you have it. The Zach Lyons final words on a football show. And in true Zach Lyons fashion, not listening to what his co-host said. Mm-hmm. I am not an emo dad. I am well aware that Fall Out Boy happened during my lifetime. I know when all the emo music happened. It happened during
that is a Fall Out Boy song, yes.
Yes, but, all of the emo rock took place between like 98 and like 05. That's when it was all very popular. And the only people who love that stuff are 42-year-old dads. And I am not one of them.
I saw Fall Out Boy in concert one time. They put on a great concert. So how dare you? I kind of identify as a 42-year-old dad.
So you are an emo dad. That's fine. That's okay.
It was at a music festival. I didn't seek them out individually, but it was a good show. So.
No, look, I have a lot of my friends are emo dads. It's great. It's not an insult at all.
Sure.
But in true Zach Lyons fashion, when I say something, he does not listen.
Right.
And misunderstands.
To Ramon Foster regularly realizes
Blaine Bishop.
What did I say? Ramon? Blaine Bishop One of those guys over there at 104.5. One of the
No,
former football
Ramon.
players.
Ramon uses a headset.
Ramon would listen. Sorry, Ramon. Blaine is, Blaine's going to realize real quick he's not going to listen to you. And then you just got to get over that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But thank God we got rid of that guy, right? So we can move on.
Peace out, dog. All right. Sinkers Beverages, by the way, we do really appreciate your support. And seriously, over the years, like taking listeners on a barrel pick to Wild Turkey Distillery to pick a specific barrel for just a football show listeners is one of the coolest things that's ever happened to me in my media career, ever. And Zach was a big part of that. The draft watch parties have been outstanding. We're going to continue that, of course, as we move along in our new version of the show and our new version of the company. So we're going to still do that kind of stuff. In fact, I think we're going to try to do more of that this season. So keep an eye out for that. But obviously, thanks to Zach and congrats to Zach. So you want to talk some Titans here, Easton?
Yeah, the Titans, they had some practices this week. They play a game this weekend.
So I do want to get your final predictions, although Monday, along with our new sort of lineup announcement coming on Monday, we'll be more able to predict final roster spots on Monday, probably. Yeah. I do think there are some fascinating battles, just talking with some folks yesterday and today, and in particular with the DeAndre Hopkins injury. Is there a sixth receiver that they keep that's really the seventh receiver if D-Hop is inactive?
Right.
Is that going to be, or could they shoehorn a fourth tight end or a fourth running back who can also catch passes into the offense instead of a seventh receiver? There's options there. There's really interesting battles at linebacker. And of course, we'll see what happens along the offensive line. So lots of stuff to work through in the Saints game. It sounds like Callahan, and you were there, Callahan talked to us sort of in the scrum, like the little fireside chat there on Wednesday morning. Had a lot of positive things to say about Will Levis's development from an accuracy and timing standpoint, that his footwork and his accuracy and his intentionality is all improved. I think we saw that in flashes, Easton, on Wednesday. Yeah. But also he made a bunch of bad throws. Treylon Burks was back out there on Thursday fully healthy, so the injury that he might have sustained on Wednesday wasn't a big deal. He made some really good throws over the middle of the offense, Levis did on Wednesday. Mm-hmm. He also missed a bunch of guys on Wednesday and then followed it up on Thursday with what I can only imagine was a below average practice. It was not great.
Okay.
Team red zone or 2 minute. It just wasn't good. And so Easton, it strikes me as I'm not sure how much we've changed on Will Levis in that he's very, very talented. Accuracy and processing, as Callahan has said, are going to be the two most important factors, and he's still kind of a 50-50 guy. You got to take the good with the bad. He's still a young player, and I think putting too much expectation on his talent this early, I think is probably the wrong thing to do if you're a Titans fan. I don't want to overreact to a couple practices into the preseason. We'll see some more against the Saints, but my instincts are he's going to do some things that wow you, that make you go wow. And then he's going to float the ball a little high and he's going to overthrow guys because that's what he's done in camp all summer. So,
you know as well as I do, covering this team since they drafted Will Levis and since he started to become an integral part of the offense, the number one thing friends and family will mention in passing, the first question you get when they are inquiring about the team is, so what do you think about Will Levis? How do we feel? Right? That's the question I fielded 100 times in the last calendar year. And not to flex, over my 3 or 4 year career in sports media, the highest profile friends that I have made are people on the national fantasy football scene, like at the Ringer and Fantasy Points. And they're in my DMs, as they are with, I'm sure, many beat writers trying to get the inside scoop on these different guys. And that's the first question they ask. And I got a lot of those questions at the beginning of training camp in July. Like, what do we think? What are we looking to see? How did he do in the spring? And my answer then was, I don't know. Like, let's wait and see. Maybe we'll find something out in camp. And then they've circled back kind of in the last week. So how are we feeling? What do we think so far? And my answer is, in all honesty, I'm in the same place. I don't really know. I had a gut feeling in the summer this was going to be the case, to be honest with you, based on what we saw in the spring, where it was like, fine, but it wasn't leaps and bounds better. It wasn't a guy that really popped off in practice. And knowing Will Levis's play style, he's a gamer. He's somebody that his archetype of quarterback strikes me as somebody that you really can't evaluate until they're out there taking the live bullets. Whether that's for good or for bad, he may get out there and look really bad to start the year. I'm not saying he's going to suddenly turn into this awesome quarterback when he gets out there. It may look like a lot of the same, but I just personally don't feel comfortable really evaluating what he's going to be like this year until we see him out there doing the thing for like a game or 2 or 3 or a month.
Yep. So here's the good news, because I agree with everything you said. And honestly, I went back and looked at my notes from our first fireside chat with Callahan a couple of weeks ago. And I think the quote was, "Not been great to start. We've missed a lot of opportunities." I think that was the direct quote. And he was talking about how he had to put together a highlight reel of go balls and go routes with a bunch of receivers from around the league that he sort of thinks are good examples of how to throw it and run it. And then we saw him, of course, like overthrow a couple against the Seahawks. Although those might have been on Ridley, to be honest with you. And we'll get to Ridley in a second, because I think he's also an interesting part of this conversation, because he did not have a great Thursday, but he was pretty good on Wednesday.
Right.
And then I went back, and so the quotes yesterday from Callahan were, "I'm really encouraged by his timing, accuracy, and footwork in practice." I thought some really interesting things about being like having the freedom to audible. I thought that was a really interesting number, and it wasn't the right place or time to ask the follow-up, but basically Will Levis has the freedom to audible and check at the line as he sees fit. The job, of course, is to get out of a bad play, not to necessarily get into a good one. And that about over the course of the season, I thought this was fascinating. Over the course of the season, he expects his quarterback, in this case, Will Levis, to check out of plays about 20% of the time. Right. So 1/5 of the time you're going to be changing the play at the line. I thought that number was pretty low, to be honest. That you run the play called 80% of the time seems stubborn almost. And what I would love to know, what my follow-up would be to Brian, and it wasn't the right place because we were trying to get through injuries and stuff, is that what you expect for your offense? Is that what you or is that what you think is? I would love to know, and there's no way to figure this out. I would love to know what percentage of snaps total in the NFL. So at the end of every single game, every single quarterback has played. I would love to know how many times the play was checked. And if the number's around 20 or 25%, that sort of seems low to me. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But I say that to sort of set some context. It seems like Brian Callahan feels more confident today with Will Levis. I thought the scheme on Wednesday, and you were there Wednesday, I thought the scheme on Wednesday was very good. Tyler Boyd was very good. He was open a lot. Calvin Ridley was open a lot. Chig was open a lot. They were getting the scheme.
Bryce Oliver was open a lot.
Scored two big touchdowns. Bryce Oliver
did.
I think the scheme was the star on Wednesday, because even when that scheme was open, Levis still about half the time was floating the ball or missing high and outside. And so
we're not seeing the guy.
So to me, the encouraging part is that the scheme seemed like it was really working, and at times has really worked well. And it's Levis's job to mature, grow, build, develop himself into the player that maximizes his opportunities. And that's okay. If the scheme was never getting people open, that would be a bigger concern than Levis needing to get a little bit better, I think. But I think to me, that was a very interesting observation on Wednesday, that guys were open. He threw the ball well over the middle. He missed almost everybody out wide and took a lot of sacks. So the offensive line also not great in the 2 days that they practiced. They played against the twos on Thursday and got shut down.
Oh, good.
Not a good look.
Good. That's great. Thanks for and by the way, you mentioned Callahan's comments on Levis at yesterday's fireside chat. Another prime example of people not listening. I and many others posted that quote, and everyone latched on to the fact that Callahan kept saying good quarterback. He's proven himself to be a good quarterback. And my replies were filled with, well, you don't want him to be good. You want the good guys to prove that they're elite in practice. You're missing the point, guys. The point is let's walk before we run, before we fly. You need to be good in practice to be a great player. Yes, the scheme was working on Wednesday. I agree. I don't know. I honestly am struggling to figure out what I want to add to this conversation, because I agree with pretty much everything you said. I do.
This is a pleasant change from Zach. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, I could, if you want me to just find a way to straw man all of your arguments, I can go there. Yeah. I don't. Maybe I am underselling the importance of this time of year. But
okay, that's interesting theory.
I just don't put a whole lot of stock into this phase of, in particular, a brand new offense with a lot of moving pieces, with a new head coach. And I don't mean to move the goalposts, because we come into this training camp period in the summer, and we're talking about how these are the things we need to see to be confident. So to be clear, this past month has not inspired supreme confidence for me in this offense going into the year. But it also has not gotten me to a point where I am definitively expecting it to really struggle. I just think we have seen time and time again in the past with other teams in similar situations where we had Brian Callahan mention the other day, I think it was his first year in Cincinnati. You had Jamar Chase, couldn't catch the ball. Oh my gosh, he's a bust of a top 5 pick. He literally can't catch the ball. And then that season, he has one of the best rookie seasons we've ever seen from a wide receiver. We saw CJ Stroud really strong. I mean, the narrative after his first preseason game, he played like a series and a half or something. And it was like, this guy blows. Can you believe this? And then he had one of the best rookie seasons we've ever seen from a guy. Now, this isn't about rookies, but those are the two examples I come up with.
Right.
My point being, you have a rookie head coach, you have mostly a rookie coaching staff or coaching staff that is working together for the first time, I suppose. And you have a lot of second-year younger players and veterans that are coming from far and wide, all working together for the first time. So I do expect it to struggle a little bit, in particular on offense. I think every new offense, even the highest ceiling offenses of the past that are amalgamated in one offseason. You think back to the first year, Tampa Bay with Tom Brady, a lot of stars and expectations, and they go into their bye in week, I think 15, 7-7. And it's like, man, this just has really been a slog so far. And then they don't lose a game the rest of the year and they win the Super Bowl. So even in the best circumstances, new offenses take some time to figure it out. I think fans need to be prepared for that. And that's why ultimately I'm not super surprised or shocked by what we've seen so far. But if you're going into the season like really supremely confident, I think you're going to be disappointed in September and October.
I agree. And Zach's prediction of 9-8, I think that's optimistic. I think fans need to be prepared to see good things on a team that's not yet good.
Sure.
That's sort of how I feel about it. And
first year Campbell with the Lions, a lot of hype going into the next year, but they were like, they had 5 or 6 wins.
Yeah. And so, again, I think there's a lot of interesting stuff I've seen, especially in the passing game, which is, again, why Brian Callahan was hired. Was his theory of the case is he who passes the ball better wins. And that can only be driven by number 8. And we can get into this probably more on Monday, but I think, Malik Willis, I don't think makes the team. And I think some of that's needs in other positions, and some of that's, maybe that's you need to have a 6th receiver because Hopkins isn't active, but you have to carry him. There's a lot of reasons why it could work that way. If you want 4 running backs or 4 tight ends, you probably can't have 3 quarterbacks, a 10th offensive lineman, et cetera, et cetera. Mason Rudolph does the 2 things. It's fascinating that I when Mason Rudolph was signed, I thought, oh, this makes sense. He plays a similar style than Will Levis. They sort of they're going to be interchangeable inside the offense, not from a talent perspective or desire to play, but like you don't lose a ton stylistically when you go from Will Levis to Mason Rudolph, right? He can step in and do most of the things. And honestly, Mason Rudolph has the 2 things we talk about are accuracy and processing. Mason Rudolph has been better at those 2 things specifically in the offense. He makes the quicker decision faster and better than Will Levis does, and puts the ball fairly accurately into places it's supposed to. He's just not as good as Will Levis at anything else.
No.
Like, he's not bigger, stronger, faster, better arm. Like Will Levis is better at everything. And so they just need to marry the scheme and the processing and the accuracy, which I think takes time. I think it takes games. I think you need games. I think we've maxed, and I don't know if you got this sense on Wednesday, but I got this sense on Thursday because some of it's just so much chiller without the Seahawks around and the fans.
Right.
So it just feels quieter and more relaxed, but it feels like folks are done with camp.
We hit the set. I'll tell you when we hit the saturation point. It was after the first quarter in the press box of the Seahawks game.
It was
I looked around. I turned to Kayla Anderson. I turned to Sam and Buck Rising. I turned to I think Corey Curtis was sitting there, and I was like, "How are we? What's temperature in the room? How are we feeling?" Like there's a point in every camp where all of us are collectively done with this, and if we could simulate to the first day of the season, we would. I just hit that point. I felt my brain break, and they all kind of agreed. And I think from here until the end of what we have less than 3 weeks now before kickoff, 2.5 weeks, something like that.
Ooh,
Thank God for that. And again, if I could go into a coma for the next 2 weeks and then wake up ready to go, I would sign up for it right this moment.
Yeah, I agree. So again, I think
listen to our shows the next 2 weeks. They're gonna be great.
Well,
I mean, so much to talk about.
There's a lot of interesting stuff. Again, I think the roster decisions coming on Tuesday are going to be
interesting.
Going to be fascinating. And it's not an easy part of the job. It's a hard part of the job for the Titans and for the coaching staff, for the front office. There's a lot of guys that have earned it. I think they do have a chance to, and part of the problem with a roster that's not elite is that you feel like you do have a big chunk of the bottom end of the roster that feels like practice squad guys, which I think is the case for this team. But it also means your practice squad should be very competitive. And those guys should be capable of contributing to the big team because there's not a huge gap there. And so you want that to change over time. That's the job of the front office. But I think there are some guys that are going to, I think there's going to be a couple, I think like 2 surprises is going to happen. And I think a lot of it's going to be playmaking on offense and who's dependable and consistent and where they're supposed to be. It's why Westbrook-Ikhine is never going to not be on the team. Like, because he's too dependable, he's too consistent and too predictable. And coaches in the NFL like predictability.
He's a control thing. He's a control.
He is. All right, Sinkers Beverages, of course, we do appreciate their support. All the things that they do for us, all the things they do for the community. Lots of great stuff in there. You talked about no calories. If you want low calorie alcoholic beverages, they've got it. If you want calorie rich alcoholic beverages, they've got that. They've got non-alcoholic beverages. They've got THC beverages. They've got wine. They've got booze. They've got bourbon. They've got tequila. They got beer. They got local beer, which also you should buy and support.
Maybe you should start listing the things they don't have. Might save you time.
They've got really good merch. They've got if you need things for your bar, they've got really good like glassware in there too. They got a lot of good stuff in there, man.
So in short,
look at the merch. Look at the merch. Look at the merch.
Hey, I like
anything you need to watch your Titans on a weekend, or that's all you need is pop into Sinkers and get all your stuff.
If you have really high expectations going into September, and maybe you should prepare yourself for things not going great out of the gate.
All right. What else? What did you see on Monday on offense? Anything else you want to add on offense? Because on Thursday they sort of switched and did like first team offense versus second team defense, first team defense versus second team offense. Both defenses won. What else did you see on Wednesday that because we can get to some of the other players that we thought did. Again, Tyler Boyd back and playing well and catching passes and being open was noticeable on Wednesday.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go, is the receivers in question, because like you said, the passing game did work pretty well on Wednesday, and Tyler Boyd, Calvin Ridley, and yes, Bryce Oliver were the 3 guys that really stuck out to me on that Wednesday practice. To put the Bryce Oliver thing to bed, no, he's not making the roster. Nobody's saying that, but
I don't think so.
No. I know so. He's not making the roster, but he's going to be a practice squatter. I'll be floored if they just cut him outright. And I think that he's got real potential to if I'm in that room with the coaching staff making the final decisions, I am making sure we stash this guy because I want to see what he looks like. Give me 1 year of him developing and let me see what it looks like, because he's got real juice. He's got versatility inside out. He's a bigger body guy. He's different than a lot of the other guys. I mean, Sam Schnee and Trayshawn Harrison and Kyrus Jackson, Kyle Phillips. He's just different than those guys. They do kind of run together.
They are all the same guy, and you just put them all together.
They do run together. To the big boy receivers, the guys that actually are important here, your starters in Ridley and Boyd. Boyd had his best day that I've seen him in two-tone blue. Yep. He made, like you said, 3 or 4 really big impact, noticeable plays, not just a 5-yard in catching the ball to move the chains. Like he was moving around intermediate routes across the middle of the field, deeper routes on the boundary. They were having him run a route tree that was pretty diverse, and he was succeeding kind of from all over the places. That's really exciting. And I think from maybe a little bit of a fantasy slant here, if I were to look for a pump and dump guy, somebody that you want to buy early on a team and then sell them high, I think again, with the Titans offense, I wouldn't actually invest in this, but the theory here from me,
DeAndre is what your theory is, right?
Well, that's part of it. But my theory here is I think if I had to put all my chips on one guy excelling very early in the passing game, it is Tyler Boyd, in part because he's going to be that safety blanket. He's going to be that when in doubt, find 83. He's going to be the chain mover when it's 3rd and 4. We got, just have him sit down on the on the line to gain and let him catch and fall forward. That's going to be his role, especially with DeAndre Hopkins out, because D-Hop does some of that as well.
Yep.
And it's familiarity with the offense already. There's not going to be any kind of limiter on him from the coaching staff in terms of what he can and can't do, as long as he is healthy. That is really the only thing that is in question for me. I think that he's going to be a big part of the offense early, and folks are going to be like, they got this guy in free agency when last offseason? He was available all that time?
Well, and honestly, the thing that clearly Will Levis is most comfortable doing is the short passing game.
Mm-hmm.
And while that will increase his accuracy and his completion percentage, I don't know how much offensive production it creates.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's got to take shots, he's got the arm to do it, but he's got to learn. And I think Callahan said this on Wednesday to us. He was like, he's got to learn when to be aggressive and when to be. I think he used the phrase "be boring." You've got to be okay being bored, which is like learn how to take what the defense gives you. Which is,
and that's another part of why I think it's going to be big for Boyd, is because that's been his that is his challenge. That is the public challenge he has been given. That's the mantle he's trying to take this offseason, is especially in this Callahan offense. It is all about taking what the defense gives you. It's kind of that, when we talk about the best quarterbacks in the league as they've progressed, you think about Burrow and Mahomes and Allen, their next step in terms of ascendancy to the top was these guys can make every wow play on the field. But when these defenses are playing conservative, too high, just forcing them to play underneath and dink and dunk down the field, hoping they'll eventually make a mistake, can they do that consistently? Can they be efficient in that boring football? I'm not saying that Levis is one step away from joining that club, but in that Callahan offense, that's the initial call to action for him, is, can you do these things well? Can you be that boring guy that's efficient underneath?
By the way, I just was checking my notes, and there was one 4-play group with the first team offense on Wednesday, and I have written down: Levis tripped on handoff first play, Ridley deflection into the air, Luke Gifford interception on second play, where Ridley made a business decision not to jump for the ball. Play 3, throwaway after scramble, he came off his reads too fast. Play 4, third read, back corner to NWI, who got 1 foot in, and that was like right in front of me. Really nice catch, but like was too far outside the end zone to make a play. So I just was looking at my notes and remembering that it was not a, and Thursday was worse. So again, I think this is going to be the season. It's going to be up and down. What was interesting, here was another nugget. I don't know if you noticed this on Wednesday. Denard Wilson was not happy with Roger McCreary. 21, get your ass out of there. 29, move to the slot. So Jarvis Brownlee, who also played a ton because neither of their starting corners is out there. I think Jarvis Brownlee, we've said a lot, is going to be a big part of this team. And if anybody's hurt for any period of time, it's 29 into any of those 3 positions.
Yep.
But Roger McCreary didn't have a good week at practice. I think he's fine. I'm not really worried about him at all. But Denard Wilson,
is it just been a week though? Has it just been a week?
I don't know. What do you think?
Well, we are planning, JT and I, over on the Hot Read podcast, our second annual edition next week. This is a dead week thing we do, the Titans Take Purge, which is a show concept we straight up ripped off from the Ringer Fantasy Football Show, but we're friends with those guys, so it's
good.
Okay.
No, as long as you cite your sources, you can rip anything.
Right,
off.
we did.
There are no original ideas. There are no original ideas.
But the entire point of the episode,
the Zone Midday Show.
Well, there you go. The point of the episode is at the beginning and at the end, we play the movie The Purge. We play the horn, and it's all takes between these two horns. All takes you are not responsible for. They're things that are creeping in the back of your mind. They're deep in your heart that you just want to put out there.
Okay.
They're things that fall into the category of like, of course not, but maybe. And so we just kind of put them out there. And one of the things that I'm kind of thinking about is, man, Roger McCreary this month. I came into this season and this training camp being like, Roger McCreary, I think this is his step up year. I think it's his ascendancy year. I think he's a really talented cornerback. Right. And as the 3, he's going to just shine. I'm not sure I believe that anymore based on the camp that he's had. I'm hoping that he falls squarely into that category of guys that just don't worry about camp. It's Fugazi, it's Fugazi. Let's get to the real games, and then he'll turn it on. But I've been consistently disappointed in what I've seen from him so far, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what both offense and defense, but what Denard Wilson puts on film against the Saints, because Brian Callahan said the starters will play. Now, we know a bunch of the big pieces on defense will not. We know Simmons, Snead, Landry, et cetera, aren't going to play. But I am curious to see what Denard Wilson does, because he seems like he's sort of like eased his way in, like showed maybe a little bit more in game 2, but less starters. And it'll be interesting to see what they deploy, how they deploy strategy wise on, with the defense in, against the Saints. Offensively, it'll be interesting as well. But I think defensively, linebacker, corner, slot, safety, what are they going to do? The new safeties with Adams and Diggs, like there's just a lot of questions for what Denard Wilson's going to do. So I do think McCreary, like I'm not there on that take yet.
Well, there's a strong devil's advocate position to tell me that I'm dumb. Can I tell myself I'm dumb real quick?
Yeah, yes, please.
The reason I'm dumb for this, and that's why I'm joking about this take right now. I'll mean it in the Take Purge episode next week, but for now I'm joking. The reason I'm dumb is that pretty much all of camp, you've been missing cornerback 1 and 2, and McCreary's been year 1, and he's been the one having to do those 1 things. And there's a reason why they brought in the talent they did to make him the 3, because he's kind of, he's not a slot only guy by any means, but that's where he's better suited. His physical attributes, he just doesn't have that top gear of speed. He does not have the length of a true outside corner. And so maybe that's, I would not be shocked at all if that's kind of the reason, once you get him back down to that 3rd spot, doing the 3 things. Oh, there's that guy we were hoping for.
Yep. Before we get into some of the battles and players that I think have a lot to prove in this game, which we'll do here to wrap up, you just promoted Hot Read. Make sure you check out the Paul Karski podcast as well. He's covering Calvin Ridley, the Steve McNair documentary, of course, on Netflix, and some of the IR rules. So make sure you check out that show immediately following us here. You can get to that podcast on the 440 Sports Network, and of course, you can watch that on the Paul Karski podcast YouTube page. So check that out. The Ridley's an interesting one as well. Like I thought he played pretty well on Wednesday. Did not have a good day on Thursday, as did the entire offense. But there's been these like little weird moments with Ridley where you're kind of like, he just sort of toes the line of being like a story and not a story. And it's not a story.
I've decided I don't care.
It's not a story if he doesn't go out. If he goes out and produces, it's none of this is a story.
Right.
But getting jammed at the line and maybe not running a route hard enough and like talking about his contract, like it's just, he sort of toes the line. He did this a little bit in Jacksonville, and this is a guy who got suspended for a year. So like we can't just give him a free pass to be good and great. He's got to do it. And I think he is. But like when he's in the open field, he's a difference maker. But
he's somebody that came out so hot in camp, and what was so hot early and so he burned so bright. And recently, you're right, it has been kind of, and I literally asked him yesterday, I was trying to pry, like, what's your motivation? Because he's not about, he will shut down any idea of trying to fulfill his contract.
Guaranteed, dog.
Trying to chase the ghost of past Calvin Ridley's and like have his best season. All that motivates him really is just like, he's got a family to feed. He's trying to be the best that he can. He's trying not to let his teammates down, which is good and totally fine. I think this time of year, he's kind of as done with it as we are. And as a veteran, maybe that's not the greatest leadership. Maybe it's not the greatest example, but I also 1,000% understand it. So I've decided, as I've thought about this the past week or two, I just don't care. I will care in a hurry if it carries over to the real games. But for now, he's one of the guys that I supremely am not worried about.
So if you're talking Purge take, and this is the last one before we talk quickly here about some, again, I think there's fascinating
in here.
Yeah, it's sort of like, I really don't like that, like 3 wins is creeping into my brain. I don't like that.
Oh,
like second overall pick
season.
Not disaster. It's just a new everything. So it would be
like the most competitive 3 wins you've ever seen.
No, just the bottoming out of the timeline here. Like it would be very normal for them to have the worst year this year.
Well, hang on. Let me press you on this, because when was the last time a team literally won 3 or 4 games and it wasn't a disaster blow it up season? When you win that few games,
I mean,
usually
I'm pretty sure Brian Callahan was the offensive coordinator for the Bengals when they had that season. But
the reason there was still optimism is because Joe Burrow died, right? Is like, well, we'll get Joe Burrow back. Don't worry.
I'd have to double check. It might have been his first year, honestly, because they picked 1st and 4th, I think, that year, right? And so they picked
mean the
Burrow.
Year before Burrow?
Well, I'm just saying, like, I want to say, my point is that it's not a blow it up year in the first year of a coach. And there's plenty of first year coaches that have their worst season.
Your quarterback.
But there's plenty of first year coaches that have the worst season in their first year and then get better.
Sure. I'm not saying I think he'd be fired if they won 0 games this year. Maybe they would. But if he won 3 or 4 games, I don't think he'd be fired. But I'd be concerned about Levis. I'd be concerned what that means for him.
Yeah, no, I agree. This is, like you said, this is the horn has not blown, but it's a Purge take, and that is that I am not predicting them to be picking 1st, 2nd, or 3rd in the draft. That's not my prediction. I think they're better than that. But
if you're being honest, it's on the table.
But I think it's more on the table than I thought. And I thought for a long time this is a 6, 7, 8 win team, which has always been where I'm at with this team. And I lean more 6 and 7 than 8. And now I'm thinking there's like maybe 4 or 5 on the table, which again we're talking about 3 plays that could take you from a 4-win team to a 6-win team, and then you're picking 6th instead of 1st. But I think things are gonna have to go right, and they're gonna have to develop, and things are gonna have to go well for them to get into that like 6, 7, 8 win range.
Let me force you to be,
which is very possible. So.
Let me force you to be unrealistically positive. What is the best case scenario you can honestly envision happening?
I think the division is much closer than people realize. The Texans have a sophomore slump, and that they are, with a couple of games to go. And this is honestly the goal of the NFL as a entertainment product, which is for everyone to be in it with like 4 weeks to go. Like that's the goal that is the goal for every team and fan base, to be relevant and watching and spending money. That is the number one goal of the league. And I think there's a good chance that this team is like, I'm trying to think what they're right, 9-8. So maybe they're like
500-ish going into
7-7 or 6-7.
Yep.
And there's flashes of good, plenty of losing, lots of glaring holes at pass rusher and linebacker, etc. And that this team, and they could lose a couple to end and finish 6-10 or 6-11, I guess, whatever it is, or they could win a couple and finish around 500. I think that's sort of your best case scenario, is that December and January are meaningful. I think that's your best case scenario, because I don't think from a talent perspective they are even a top half team in the league. They're just not. All right, quickly, real fast. Can't wait to see Chestnut Haskins battle that out. I think there's a chance they both make the team, which is I can't believe that.
Battle over. No battle. There's no battle.
I think there's a chance both of them make the team. Honestly,
there's a chance one of them makes the team. One of them's already made the team. There's a chance
88-89, which is Odukoya and David Martin Robinson.
Also over.
They're in a heated battle. Who? Which team are you on?
DMR, Odukoya. I love Thomas Odukoya. I've been the foremost proponent of Thomas Odukoya for a year and a half now. DMR's on the team. I'm planting my flag.
There's another guy that's very strongly in your camp as well in the media throng. I'm not going to throw him out there, but we were talking about it, and he's very much in agreement with you. Everyone I've talked to has been Team 89, and you and this other guy are Team 88. And
you found people that are big Odukoya.
I might be coming around to you. I thought Odukoya was the better overall player, and I'm starting to think that they're both worthy.
I love Odukoya. I wish nothing more for him to get out of the purgatory of the international player spot. DMR has ruined that for him.
Here's the other thing, though. If Hopkins is out and you don't think there's a clear-cut number 7 receiver to carry, because you can't put Hopkins on the PUP list, but you have to keep him active. Kinsey has the finger. Kyaris Jackson has got the I think it's hamstring.
Kinsey.
I think
it's Kinsey. If you ask me. If there's a 7th, it's Kinsey.
What I'm saying is that there is no clear number 7, in my opinion. I think you're right. I would lean towards Kinsey. What I'm saying is, shut up, Easton. What I'm saying is,
I'm just being annoying now.
You could use a very good pass catching running back or pass catching tight end as a number 4 in those F move situations or in those F slot roles. There's ways to add a pass catcher to the offense that is not a receiver, and therefore you're allowed to keep a 4th tight end. I do think keeping Odukoya in the international slot does play a factor in all of this, which again is, like, to your point, purgatory here. Offensive line, I don't know who the last guy cut is. I think that's going to be interesting to watch over the weekend.
9 or 10.
And middle linebacker. I don't know. I don't know who it is. I don't know who they keep.
No, but do you think they keep 9 or 10 linemen? Do you have a feeling on that?
I do. That
I think it's 11 guys fighting for either 9 or 10 spots, and I've changed my mind 10 times in the last 24 hours.
I think I'll go with 9 because I think they feel pretty comfortable with their starting 5. I think they know
9 too, but I don't know who to cut. I can't.
Although here's another thing. Offense very good running the ball left on Wednesday.
Not right.
Latham and Skoronski, not so much right. But we'll see. Just keep an eye on that in the game as well.
Before you go to defense, can I say one very quick thing to boil down the skill position? You're talking about potentially a 4th running back, potentially a 4th tight end, potentially a 7th wide receiver. Whatever happens, I'm pretty confident you only get 1 extra of one of the. Like, I don't think you get 4 running backs and 4 tight ends. I think you get either 1 extra running back, 1 extra tight end, 1 extra receiver. I personally lean heavy. I think it's the 4th tight end, and you only get 3 running backs and 6 receivers. That's my pick.
It's funny. I could go running back here because I think they know they can manipulate the international slot with Odukoya, right? Like they can keep 4 running backs and 3 tight ends, but they get to keep and protect Odukoya. So then they're keeping 4 and 4 in theory.
Until you can't. Like once you rip that Band-Aid off, it's
over. I know. And that's why I don't think he makes it. Is like because you rip the Band-Aid off, you no longer have the international slot to use.
You got to use him.
Yeah. In which case, I don't know if they think he's a permanent member of the team all year. So in that case, you might keep him on international. Right. Inside linebacker is going to be interesting. 4, 5, 6. I know. I don't either. I have a feeling, but like again, I think James Williams is slowly working his way up the depth chart, which is good. But I
So
still
what's
don't
the
think
number?
he's.
4,
I still
5,
don't
or
think he's ready to
6.
play.
You got to put your flag on.
If they put Gray on the PUP list, which like we have not seen him on the field,
I think it's 5.
But I think they might cast a wide net at that position to try to get warm bodies. On the
Yeah, I think it's
field.
either 5 or 6. I'll be floored if it's only 4 guys.
Gifford, Murray, Reese, Campbell, Williams, I think are the 5.
So
And
no-
Gray
so
Gray
what-
might be
no-
on PUP.
right, Gray on a list. Gray on a list.
On
Yeah.
a list. That's right.
That's kind of how I feel.
I mean,
think
that's
it's-
kind of it. I
it's
think
fair
that's
except for Gray.
the list of folks to watch. And then Monday we'll have an announcement on our new lineup, and of course we'll break down the cuts based on the Saints game. So there you go. Sinkers Beverages, of course, do appreciate it. Easton, always a pleasure, and appreciate you for stepping in and
Always a pleasure.
filling the slot for Zach. Again, tune in on Monday. Congrats to Zach. Tune in on Monday for our new lineup and new hosts. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be, I'm very excited about it, and our sponsors excited about it. Sinkers is in, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Season's here, boys. So let's get this last preseason thing out of the way. Let's get cut down day out of the way, and let's get ready for football. So other than that, thank you so much, Easton. I do appreciate it. You can follow him at Easton Freeze, Hot Read Podcast as well. Make sure you check all that good stuff out.
Check it out
as well. So other than that, thanks for hanging out. We do appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the weekend. We will talk to you guys on Monday.